These things take hiatus.
17 years, she did year one. All right, so you look forward to many decades of this then? Yes, right. Well, no, well, another, yeah, infinite.
I know we're getting a little bit later start, so I hope you won't mind if we extend the end time about 10 minutes. I know a lot of people in the audience, but I don't know some of you. My name is Jill Lewis-Spector, and I serve as co-president of the League of the Greater New Brunswick Area League of Women Voters. And on behalf of our league, I welcome you to this evening's critically important meeting about Census 2020. As most of you know, but some of you may not, the League of Women Voters of New Jersey is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, influences public policy through education and advocacy, and strives to empower voters and defend democracy. The expert information you'll be receiving tonight about Census 2020 will contribute significantly to our mission. I also want to add that there will be celebrations throughout the state this year, actually next year, starting in January, that will recognize the centennial anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. And if you're not on our mailing list and you'd like more information about these events and what our local league does, please sign up on the email list that's at the back of the room. We are delighted to be co-sponsoring tonight's event with the Highland Park Civics for the Community series, and Beth Stevens is next.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome all of you, many of who I've seen before. For those of you who do not know much about the Civics for the Community series, it's a series that started in 2018 when several of us went to various teach-ins about state and local politics and found that despite having lived in the state for many years, we didn't really know how the state politics worked or local politics. And so we developed the Civics for the Community series that is sponsored by the borough. We've had various kinds of talks over the last several years, ranging everywhere from how the state government works to local government, property taxes, why the state finances are in the shape that they're in. And this year we've been branching out and we've had the state climatologist, David Robinson, come and talk about how climate change affects New Jersey and what it might affect small towns like ours. And then last month we had aging-friendly communities, which is all about how small towns can do grassroots work to make communities easier places for seniors to live, the disabled to live, and people with small children who need to have easy flow around the borough. So we were happy when Jill approached us to co-sponsor the census talk that you're hearing, and I'm going to turn it over to Andrea, I believe, right?
She's going to do something.
Hello, I'm Andrea Kahn, and I'm one of the two co-presidents, along with Jill, of the Greater New Brunswick Area League of Women Voters. We're going to rearrange our schedule just slightly to give June an opportunity to take care of some matters that she has to take care of. Our next speaker will be Alyssa Moreno. Alyssa is the Civic Engagement Coordinator at the League of Women Voters of New Jersey. She started in October, and Alyssa has been working towards activating the League's expansive network to coordinate educational outreach around the importance of the census, with a focus on hard-to-count populations. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Thanks for having me. I'm the Civic Engagement Coordinator for the League of Women Voters in New Jersey. We at the state are dedicated towards a complete count for our state because the census determines the next 10 years of living in New Jersey. In terms of political representation, we did lose a seat in 2010 because of results from the 2010 census. $22.7 billion annually to New Jersey with funding as well as economic development and resources. So there are various steps that we're taking towards reaching that goal, including a lot of education and advocacy throughout the state, targeting hard-to-count populations. And something that I think is great about the League is our local leagues. You all have such deep roots in your communities. You've been doing voter education and registration for so many years, and you have become such trusted partners in your communities. So that's why I think it's so important to partner with you all, because you have unique perspectives and you have really true deep insights into your community and what matters to them. So the League has formed a statewide coalition joined by 17 leagues in target areas to plan events and coordinate efforts for the Census 2020. We're looking to educate hard-to-count communities as much as possible. So, and specifically in this area, a lot of Rutgers students don't know where they should be counted. They should be counted at their college, but a lot of parents don't know that. So it's important to educate them as much as possible, as well as there's a lot of communities of color in this area, whether they be non-English speakers, with immigrant communities, or they just don't trust the federal government to have their information. So it's up to us as community leaders to educate them about why the census is so important and why they can trust the census is something that is safe and secure to fill out. So what can you do? There's so many ways to get involved with the census, advocacy and education. I'm going to go through a little bit of a timeline of the League's activities and what we're looking to local leagues to do with the state in specific target areas. So in January, something that you guys are already doing is invite the census to any community events that you're already involved in. It's really great. The census has so many partnership specialists that they're there and they're ready to come to anything to educate as many people as possible. Sharing census materials with your friends, families, and coworkers. It's something that's really easy to just talk to your loved ones about, that, hey, the census is coming up. I think we should really fill it out and think about it. Sharing census messaging on social media. So the League will be having social media campaigns throughout the next few months. That it's something really easy, quick and easy to just retweet or share on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, as well as the Census Bureau themselves shares so much educational materials that it's something so low effort to just share. In February, we're going to be planning census activities in schools to educate children on the importance of being counted in the census, and then the children can go and talk to their parents about why it's so important. So it's something really easy to do, as well as just placing census materials on any resource table in a school, in a local government building, anywhere there's materials, the census should really be there. And even distributing flyers and fact sheets at local meetings and events and community gatherings, all stuff that you guys are already doing because you're so involved in your communities already. And then in March, we're going to be adding census outreach to any existing outreach that you have, whether that be newsletters or social medias, training other volunteers about how to be a census ambassador and how to talk to their community about the census, and even hanging up posters in schools or libraries about the census. And then April 1st is National Census Day, so we're going to have parties for people to come fill out their census, sort of organizing around that and providing on-site computer access to fill out the questionnaire, as well as hosting your own fill out the census day at any school, church, or community service that you have. So those are just a few things that you can do. That's what the League is really planning on doing. But thank you for your time. I'm glad you're all so interested and ready to do census work. Awesome.
Hello, I'm back. I am very pleased to introduce our keynote speaker, June Dowell-Burton. June is the founder and an executive board member of Newark Gay Pride, Inc., an LGBT community-based volunteer-run organization that works to enhance LGBTQ life by producing an annual Gay Pride Week and facilitating programming in Newark, New Jersey. The organization was recognized by the White House in 2012 and will celebrate its 15th year anniversary in 2020. June became an Essex County LGBTQ advisor in 2011. She worked primarily on identifying issues, providing recommendations, and guiding strategy for the county executive. In 2010, June was vetted and hired as one of 23 national LGBT partnership specialists for the U.S. Census Bureau. There, she created and implemented a community engagement plan to engage and count same-sex couples in New Jersey. In 2013, she joined the staff of RPM Development as a social service coordinator. There, she planned, implemented, and managed resident social services in 8 low-income buildings. June took a leave of absence from her position there and as an adjunct professor at both Rutgers University and Essex County College to rejoin the Department of Commerce to ensure an accurate count for the 2020 census. Thank you. Thank you for speaking to us.
So how's everybody doing tonight? So thank you so much for coming. This is such an important endeavor, forever changing, so just go with the flow. So yes, my name is June Dowell-Burton, and I am a partnership specialist with 2020 Census. So again, thank you for being here, and thank you for coming out and listening to me speak. All right, here we go. Okay, what does that number mean? Who knows? Yep, 104 days until April 1st, 2020, okay? So I always try to lead with that because that's how much time we have to educate and empower people about the 2020 census. All right, so as you know, the U.S. Census Bureau is the largest statistical agency in the United States. It's the leading source of quality data about the nation's people, places, and economy, and we conduct over 130 Census Bureau surveys and programs. So the 2020 census is not the only game in town. So we run demographic programs like ACS surveys. So that's actually running right now will be running right now with the 2020 census, and that's done on a yearly basis. Also the current population survey, the American Housing Survey, and then we also do the economic census and the census of governments in the years ending in 2 and 7. So our goal is to count everyone once, only once, and in the right place. So it was a good segue on where to count college students because Highland Park and New Brunswick are definitely hard to enumerate spaces, just simply because of it being like a college town. So we have 330 million people to count. That's a lot in such a short period of time. And over 140 million housing units. So it is mandated by Article 1 in the U.S. Constitution, and we conduct the decennial every 10 years. Since 1790, so back in 1790, they used to get in a little horse and buggy and go on across the nation and count people. So, but why is it important? It's about representation, which I like to say power, and funding, dollars and cents, right? All right, so some key milestones for the census. So back in August 2019, so we started the new statistics in schools, where classroom activities are available online right now. In January 2020, you're going to start to see major campaigns for the 2020 census, and we've already started some right now because we're still recruiting, so we're hiring. So fill it out online. So March 2020, we'll do group quarters enumeration, and I'll talk just briefly about that a little bit later. But yes, college dorms, prisons, nursing homes, service-based locations, i.e. homeless shelters, soup kitchens, mobile food vans, and we count the homeless as well. So from mid-March 2020, you guys can start responding, answering your survey either on the phone or online. And then you can also reply by mail, and that'll be an option. And then April 1st is Census Day. So, but what other day is that? April Fool's Day, right? But this is not a joke, so make sure, you know, because a lot of people are like, wait, it's not April Fool's Day. I was like, no, this is very serious, so we're not joking around. So mid-May 2020 to July 2020, that's when our census takers will go door to door if folks have not self-responded. And then December 31st, 2020, that's when all of the tabulations and the data will be released, tabulated and released, and sitting on the president's desk. So, like I said before, we are hiring. We are currently recruiting 63,000 people to enumerate the state of New Jersey. That's a lot of people. So, and right now we are not at our goal. And January and March is just right around the corner. So if you know folks that are looking for part-time jobs, it's really easy. You know, you get your training, it's temporary, 8-week cycles, $18 to $25 an hour, depending on where you live. It's flexible, so if you can only work 3 days out of the week, they won't call you on a 4th day. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, don't expect a call on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay, so they go by your schedule. And so you can apply for those jobs at 2020census.gov/jobs. So this is a little bit about the jobs. Again, we're recruiting 63,000 people to enumerate the state of New Jersey. But a lot of folks, we have started our recruiting campaign, as you can see, way back in September 2019. So in a lot of municipalities and counties, we've had several job fairs. So for those people that have applied, you know, just tell them to be patient if they haven't received a call, because our major hiring will occur in January. So as you can see, it says make job offers and conduct background checks. And normally that background check takes a long time since you are a federal employee. So from January to April, that's when we'll be doing that. And then from March to June, there'll be census taker training. And then hopefully folks will be at work from March to July. So we have our local census offices, and so the closest one to Highland Park would be South Plainfield. So there are 8 area census offices. So back in 2010, the census offices, people could actually go to the census offices and fill out the questionnaire and get assistance. Well, unfortunately, in 2020, that will not be the case. So it's only for operations only. Okay? So 2020 census, is it safe? So we get a lot of questions about, you know, what's going to happen to my information, and this will be the first time you'll be able to respond online. So the information is never published. We can't share your names, your addresses with anybody. We take an oath as federal employees working for the Department of Commerce and the Census Bureau, and we can get fined up to $250,000 and or 5 years in the Fed pen if we decide to divulge any information. So, but we don't share any information. That's what happens. And orange is my favorite color, but I'm not behind bars, and I prefer to keep my money in my pocket. So, and this is not just like a one-time thing, like while we're working for the census. This is a lifetime oath. And so, like, it's 2020 now. Back in 2010, if I decided to blab the, you know, Joe Schmo, then I'm going to jail. Okay? So we take it very, very, very seriously. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we're not the only game in town. So the 2020 decennial is not the only game in town. But how do you recognize a census employee? So we just wrapped up address canvassing, and that was one of our field operations where we ensured that the addresses were actually viable. People lived in the houses. So you probably saw folks walking around with laptops and cell phones and, just standing out there looking at an address. So that's what they were doing. So let's just say a census employee happened to walk up to your door. Knock, knock, knock. Hi, Ms. Smith. I'm from the Census Bureau. I don't know you from the Census Bureau. Okay, Ms. Smith, well, I have my lovely census bag, as you can see right there. So it's a black bag with the U.S. Census logo and everything on it. Anybody can have a census bag. Yes, that could very well be true. But I also have a census ID with a chip in it. They can manufacture those too. Okay? Another way is our trusty, I don't have it with me, but it's in my bag, our trusty iPhones. So every census employee will have an iPhone, which will identify or have a code on it. So hopefully you will hit the trifecta and they won't ask you to show all of your identification and just be willing to let you in and get the data that they need. But those are ways to identify census employees. So even as early as right now, there are some frauds going around. So we have, letters that have been going in the mail saying to, make an affiliation with a specific political party. That's not the census. So if you happen to see any of that stuff come in the mail, that's not us. There's also been stuff that's going in the mail that asks you for a donation. That's not us either. So your federal tax dollars pay for this. All right, and then there's also, maybe some folks that are calling on the phone and letting people know, especially in those hard-to-enumerate communities, that they might go to jail if they don't fill out their questionnaire. That's not true either, so that's not the census, okay? So, but if you happen to hear of any of these things in any of your communities, please reach out to, and emails, by the way. A lot of those going around too. So if you suspect anything that didn't sound like any of the things that I just mentioned, please report it. Because if we don't know, then, people in the community are going to, be more afraid than what they already are. Okay? So you can go to the fraud line, which is 1-800-923-8282. Or you can also visit the census site that talks about fraud. Cybersecurity. So yes, this will be the first time that you'll be able to respond online. So from the beginning, when a respondent uploads their information, it is automatically encrypted. And then it goes off into cyber world, and there's only 2 folks that have that information or that have access. So we are working with the top security experts to ensure that that data is safe. So 4 ways to respond. 1, online. 2nd way is over the phone. 3rd way is the old way, paper. Trying to save some trees this time. And then you also could get a personal visit by a census employee. So we are looking for almost a 60% response rate for folks online. Because mostly everyone has cell phones or has access to the internet. So that's how we're looking for most folks to respond. So things that we ask: your name, your age, date of birth, race, origin, Hispanic origin if so, your relationship, gender, your tenure, and then there's some operational questions so we don't get an overcount or an undercount. And so those could be like your name, phone number, just to make sure we have no duplicates. Things we don't, yes?
What do you mean by tenure?
Tenure, like how long you've lived there? Yeah. So, things that we will never ask for. We don't ask for your full social security number. We don't ask for money or donations and anything on behalf of a political party, as I mentioned, nor do we ask for your bank account or your full credit card. So we don't ask any of that. So this is actually a sample of...
When you use the word full, is that because they're going to ask for part of it?
No, they're not asking any of it.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not going to ask for any of it. But on some of the other surveys that we do, they may ask for how much do you make a year? Things like that, okay? So this is a sample questionnaire. And so as you can see, it asks you on question 1, and this is for the head of the household. So I'll include it the first part for the head of the household to fill out. So how many people are living or staying in the house? That's question 1. Question 2, were there any additional people staying here on April 1st and that you did not include in question 1? Is this house, apartment, or mobile home? So they ask you that information. What is your telephone number? Just in case they might have to call to ask additional information. Then they ask for you to provide extra information on anyone living in the house. So what is person 1's name? Then they ask what is person 1's sex, and then what is person 1's age, and if person 1, what is their date of birth? Okay, then you go down to 8. So then they ask about Hispanic, Latino, Spanish origin. They ask about race, and then that should do it. So if you happen to have extra people in your household, then you will get the exact same questions again. Okay? So that's for the head of the household to fill out. Okay, so language support. So you know that the United States is such a diverse place, right? So the questionnaire will be available in Spanish and in English. But there will be phone support, videos, and other materials in these 12 languages. Okay, so Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Russian, Arabic, Tagalog, Polish, French, Haitian Creole, Portuguese, and Japanese. Okay, and so believe it or not, those 12 languages cover 99% of the households in the United States. In addition, so for internet self-response, respondents will be able to toggle between the languages within the instrument. So that's for internet self-response. If you need census questionnaire assistance, those languages, there's a separate phone number for each language. So you can actually call up in your native language and receive someone on the opposite end of the phone in that language. Then the 59 non-English languages will have language guides, language glossaries, and language identification cards. And this will help those people with those 59 non-English languages to fill the questionnaire out in English. Okay, and then again, as I mentioned, the paper questionnaire and mailing materials will also be in Spanish. And then for those who have challenges or disabled, they can get their questionnaire in large print and Braille. And there's also, if they need sign language, they can request census personnel to come to enumerate them in sign language. So how will the census invite everyone to respond? So from March 12th to the 20th, you will receive an invitation to respond. That invitation will be a letter. Some households may receive the questionnaire during that first mailing. Then March 16th to the 24th, you will get another reminder. And if you haven't responded, then again, you'll get a reminder postcard, and then another, so like how many mailings is that? Already 4, right? And then April 8th to the 16th, you'll get another reminder. And then April 20th to the 27th, a final reminder postcard will come before we start knocking on doors. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 opportunities, right? So just fill it out online and just get it out of the way. All right, so every household will have the opportunity of responding online, by phone, or by mail. So again, bilingual invitations. So about 13 million households, about 9% will receive bilingual English-Spanish questionnaires. Now you ask, how do we know who needs an English or a Spanish questionnaire? So actually, there's this system called Rome, which I'll show you a little bit later. But so those have census tracts in them. And so those census tracts have some demographic information. So we can identify those neighborhoods where the population is mostly Hispanic or Latino. And that's how we find that out. And all households, regardless of whether they are in an area that receives English and Spanish, will receive information about how to respond in Spanish, online, and by phone. So Spanish is that second language that we are using. Okay, so why is census important? It determines the number of seats each state has in the House of Representatives. It defines congressional and state legislative districts, school districts, and voting precincts. It determines the annual allocation of $375 billion. $675 billion, yes. Yes. That's a big number, right? Okay. All right, the federal government distributes it to the states distribute it to the county, and the counties distribute it to the local municipalities. So, what are some of those federal programs? Medicaid, SNAP, highway planning, Section 8, special education grants, S-CHIP, Title I, National School Lunch Programs, WIC, Head Start, foster care, health programs, and good old student loans. Okay, so it also provides like those economic and business surveys. It provides insight to government, business, and community planning groups for planning purposes. So every year is important. So what we do in 2020 is going to last us till 2030. So we need to make sure we get it right. Okay, so this is just like where we are today. So it's pretty much the timeline. So we're going to try to reach a very diverse crowd. So we've hired partnership specialists, like myself, who are out educating the community. So then, and we're partnering with schools, organizations, to make sure everyone's on board about 2020 census. So then in January, like I said before, you're just going to get the big rush of national media talking about fill out that questionnaire. It's time to do it. It's time to make it happen. It's time because it's important. And then after that is you'll get the call to respond in March. And then May, those enumerators are going to come if you don't fill it out. I always have to do that. So the education phase, 2018 to 19, the awareness phase again, January to February 2020, motivation phase, March to May 2020, and then the reminder phase, if you haven't done it, please do it, and then the thank you, because we want to make sure that you know how important you are to us, and actually your community as well, because we need to make sure that count is accurate. So how do we do that? So some organizations have formed complete count committees. We have a complete count committee at the state level in New Jersey. And then there's also complete count committees at the county level as well as at the local municipal level. And Highland Park does have, which Udi will talk about in a little bit, does have a CCC. So these are the leaders, stakeholders, they get together and they strategize around how they're going to ensure that their group, sector, city, state can ensure an accurate count. So I mentioned that response outreach mapper. So this is the state of New Jersey. The response outreach mapper and all of this information that I'm giving you right now is available online. So it provides information on how to identify hard to survey areas. So it provides a demographic and socioeconomic characteristics, and again you'll see more about Highland Park in Udi's presentation. So the darker the area is, the harder to enumerate. So we predict that the darker areas will not respond. So those are the areas that the Census Bureau is targeting. And most of those hard to enumerate areas are probably communities of color, the LGBT population, college towns. So there's a very big long list of hard to enumerate areas. Yes?
Why would the LGBT community resistant to the census?
The LGBT community, since I've done most of my career in the LGBT community, there's a lot of issues around gender identification. So when I showed you the sample questionnaire, you saw that it only asked sex, and it was male or female. And that's one of the LGBT's issue, and that there is no transgender box to check, and that there's no sexual orientation question on there as well. So, there have been some issues around it, but the Census Bureau has made several strides in changing some of the questions on, not on the 2020 decennial, but on other surveys. So like on the American Community Survey, the parenthood question, it's like, do you have a mother and father? And they just changed it to, do you have parents? So they don't ask for a specific gender. Yeah. Yes?
I'm so glad he asked that question because I have to go back to something you said earlier about head of household.
Yes.
Do you run into any obstacles asking head of household because head of household no longer really equate to the traditional mother and father?
Right,
You know, that
yeah,
kind
no,
of
it's
thing?
just however they self-identify. And that would also include with the race question, because you may have some people that may be of multi-races, however they self-identify.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So we also have a data dissemination program, and this is free to you. And this data dissemination program, it operates not just during the decennial, but all the time. So if you need information on how to extract data from any of our surveys, someone can come to you and show you exactly how to do that. So, when Jill asked me to do the presentation, she wanted to actually highlight on counting young children. So, young children, almost 1 million young children were left off of the decennial in 2010. So it's very important, and so in 2010, you know, they may have been infants, 1 or 2 years old, but now they're, how old, 10, right? 10, 12, right? So they're in the schools, they're, you know, eating the free lunches if necessary. You know, they're going for health care. Their moms maybe have participated in SNAP or something like that. So it's very important to ensure that young children are counted, to ensure that the resources are there for their moms as well as the children.
Why would people resist reporting on?
Gotta come in next. So, some young children with the highest risk of coverage errors include children who were not a biological or adopted child of the householder. So like, you know, there may be some seniors or grandparents who are raising their grandchildren. Children who were Hispanic or racial minority. You know, some folks just didn't really think that their voices were important. Children that live in complex households. So maybe some folks are afraid if they are living in you know, if there's one apartment and there's 3 families living in there and you don't want anybody to know that you have 2 other families living with you, you may just only fill out the questionnaire just to show one family because you're scared you're going to get in trouble. But again, we can't share that information with anybody. We need to count everybody in the household. Children living in renter-occupied housing and multi-unit structures. Very young children, those born in a few months prior to the census. You know, it's like, okay, they're just born, so like, why should I count them? But they're very important. You have to count everybody. And then children not enumerated by self-response. So, you know, the census person comes, knocks on the door, and, you know, you fill it out, but you just didn't count your child. So, reasons why young children were not counted. Young children were missed because of different types of errors, such as the housing unit was missed, the entire household was missed, or part of the household, or just the child was missed. Whole household errors were more common for biological and adopted children, while partial household errors were more common for grandchildren and other relatives. Young children were missed because they lived in hard-to-count households with enumeration challenges, you know, which some of them I just mentioned. And young children may have been missed along with their young mothers. You have to acknowledge there's a teen mother population that's, you know, probably they don't even know what the census is. And they don't know how important it is, so they just don't fill it out. And then cooperative self-respondents made errors when they created household rosters. So again, they just didn't include their young children. So I mentioned group quarters. Yes?
After the fact, how do you come up with the number that 1 million children, young children were uncounted? What are the bases for knowing that?
Oh,
now it's 10 years later.
Right, yeah, there are several studies that were done after the decennial, And remember, we also do the American Community Survey every single year, and that's like 1% of the population.
Okay.
So, but there are studies, and I can give you the link to where that is if you need to, dig into more history. Yeah, okay. Counting homeless youth, because I thought about the homeless youth population as well, and how are we going to count them? So there's going to be service-based enumeration, and so we will go to providers who offer services to people experiencing homelessness. So this isn't just youth; this is a program for adults, but I honed it in to talk about youth. But this is actually a program that will affect adults as well. Then we're going to have targeted non-shelter outdoor locations called Census, and they will be targeted on April 1st. So actually, census employees will actually go to places, parks, to actually look for homeless people, and count them. But we're relying on our partners, our cities, our stakeholders to let us know where these people are, so we can count them. And then group quarter enumerations. So that's going to be April 1st to May 1st. So I gave you a list of some of those places, college dorms. So yes, college students should be counted at their colleges. And so there's always a big debate because, some parents are like, oh, that's my baby and she's coming home after school. And, so yes, I want to count her here. But the right thing to do is to have her be counted at the dorm. So again, group quarters are places where people live, stay in a group living arrangement, and these places are owned or managed by a third party that provides residents with housing and or services. So this is a list of some of them. So military quarters, like I said, jails, convents, monasteries, abbeys, group homes, and this actually is a separate operation. So this is a completely different operation, which I am not well versed on. So, but if you need information on group quarters, you can contact your local regional office, and I'll give you that information at the end as well. Yes?
So therefore, anyone who's, let's say, incarcerated,
Yes.
They would actually everyone would still have to fill out a form.
Right.
With their information.
Right, so people who are in prison or jails, the Census Bureau will reach out to that facility and decide how they're going to enumerate them. Yes?
Is it that isn't there some controversy about that, whether they should be considered as residents in that community where the prison is or at their home?
So the controversy I can't really speak to. I am aware of it, but we just want to make sure that everybody's counted wherever they are.
So for now, it is going to be counting them in the
Yes.
town or wherever.
Well, in the state, well, as far as I know, yes. But again, if you have questions about group quarters enumeration, you can contact the regional office.
For a school dormitory, who fills it out?
It varies. So there are different types of responses. So you can do the electronic response data, so it's called e-response. The in-person interview, they can pick up or get a questionnaire, but again, it depends on how the census reaches, not how the census will reach out to that facility, college, jail, group home, and then they will work together to figure out how they are going to enumerate. So, for example, like some colleges may have a dorm list, and they just may say, okay, this is the list of all of the information on the people that live in the dorm. Okay, so but I wanted to include it because it's very important, like for people in group homes and hospitals, but there isn't a way to enumerate everybody, and that's what I wanted to try to show. So back to kids. Statistics in schools. So this is a very, very, very important program. So the Census Bureau will reach out to 70,000 schools in the New York region. And right now it is currently up and on the website, census.gov, and there are interactive activities from K through 12. There's pre-K materials, we have coloring books, as well as things for adult ESL and ELL learners. So all of this is online, as well as most of the information and fact sheets. The website is just simply amazing. It might take you 2 weeks to go through, but it is simply amazing, and I encourage everyone to check it out. So you can become a CIS partner, so you don't have to be a school to be a CIS partner. You could be someone at a daycare or just a teacher who's interested in spreading the word. So there's ways, and you can sign up at Staten Schools at census.gov to learn how to do that. So again, how do we support our partners? So as a partnership specialist, any event that you may have, you say, hey June, I'm doing this great event. If I don't have an opportunity to speak, I can leave materials for you, I can email them. We have on that website, we have drops for newsletters, and we're all over social media, so if you haven't started to see it on your Facebook page, we're there as well. And so we support folks with graphics, logos, anything you need, we'll try to make sure you get. And we also have posters that can be sent directly to the partners. So if you actually need tons of posters to post in the school or whatever building that you're in, we can provide that information as well. So again, share the message and promote the jobs, because we want to hire from within the communities to get people to open the doors. And I'll just give you one little sample story that my supervisor told yesterday at our training. She said that she went into an Italian neighborhood and she knocked on the door, and then the guy just, opened the door, but he, just said some not so nice things. And then she was like, okay. And she went on about her way. And then she had a conversation with a colleague, and then the colleague said, oh, okay, no problem. Spoke to a partner and a colleague, and they said, well, this neighborhood, this is how things run in this neighborhood. So they sent an Italian mail to the resident, and he opened the door, and everything was just fine. So, and the same thing like in an African American community or in a Latino community. You want people who live and work there to be the ones asking the questions and trying to reach the community. Okay? So again, we're on social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. There's tons of YouTube videos. So if you happen to be on there, trying to learn how to fix something, because I'm on YouTube all the time learning how to fix like my dryer or whatever. So just check out a YouTube video. And we're on Instagram as well. So if you happen to need me or one of my colleagues to come speak, you can email the partnership program and or call. Census jobs, tons of them, and if you're not necessarily interested in working for the census, you can go to usajobs.gov, and that's all the government jobs are listed there. Okay, and then our data dissemination program, that information is there as well.
Is that contact information back there?
Nope. You want me to leave it up so you can take a picture? I'll go back.
Move the mouse cursor to pop up there. There you go.
Have you got it? Oh.
One girl
We
in
do.
a small town, an architect in a major city, and a suburban high school coach shape the future of the United States? Yes, they can. Because every 10 years, the census gives us that power. You can shape your future by responding to the 2020 census. Where do we need new roads to make our lives easier? Where will new school programs help our children thrive? Where could a new health clinic benefit neighborhoods? The 2020 census will inform these decisions and shape how billions of dollars will be distributed to communities like yours each year. And in 2020, you can respond to the census online, by phone, or by mail. It's easy, safe, and important. Make sure you and everyone you know is counted. Now is the time for you to get involved. Your community needs you. Together, we can educate and excite, inspire, and make sure every voice is heard. Together, we can shape our future.
So that concludes my presentation, and that was the longest minute and a half. Oh my gosh, quads. Okay, so, all right, so thank you. Do you have any questions? Oh, would you questions last?
We'll
Okay.
do questions last because we have Woody's
Yes.
speaking, and then we'll open up questions for
Okay.
any of the speakers.
Okay, great.
Okay? So,
Thank you so much.
Learn new stuff every time.
Oh, no. I just came back from training yesterday. Does it end?
Thank you, Jude. I'm Udi Shorr. I'm chair of the Highland Park Complete Counts Committee to talk about what the census just drills down to a micro level in Highland Park. How many people are from Highland Park? Okay, a good number. So the rest of you can just get a sense of how we kind of judge the impact, and you can apply the same methodology to your community. Highland Park has 3 census tracts. So if you live in Highland Park, take note of which tract you're in, because we're going to show some more information. So this is Raritan Avenue, and this is 5th. So everybody know what tract they're in if you live in Highland Park? All right. So as June mentioned, we have Rome, which is this census data site, where it includes data for each of our 3 tracts. That includes a low response score. And this is the percent that won't be counted by, unless they are seen by door-to-door canvassers. It means they are probably not going to go online, they're not going to mail in the paper form. They're only going to get counted if someone goes door-to-door and catches them at home. Think for a moment of the odds of that. So here are the 3 census tracts, and each of the tracts has a low response score and its estimated population. So as you see, they range from about 20 to close to 25% of non-responders in our 3 census tracts. And actually, if you do some math, if you take the population from each tract, multiply it by the low response score, and then you put that in a spreadsheet, you get the undercount, predicted estimated undercount for each of our 3 census tracts. And then we get the total number of 3,188. Now pay attention to that number, because it's all about the money. In 2015, according to the George Washington Institute of Public Policy, the estimated funding loss per undercounted person was $1,091. So if we go back to our spreadsheet and multiply 3,188 people by that amount, we get close to $3.5 million of federal funding that comes to Highland Park. Or potentially does not come to Highland Park. Think how much property taxes we would need to compensate for that loss. And this is money that funds and helps our most vulnerable residents. These are for school lunches, senior transportation. These are all the kinds of things that you get government grants to support. So by undercounting these people, we hurt by $3.5 million our most vulnerable populations. So it's about the money, and it's about more than the money. As we heard earlier, it's about representation. After the 1980 census, New Jersey lost its 15th district. After the 1990 census, we lost our 14th district. And after the 2010 census, we lost our 13th district. It can happen here. After the 1990 census, the Redistricting Commission placed Bernice Dwyer and Frank Pallone in the same district, so Dwyer retired, and that is why we share a congressman with Sandy Hook. All right? So, women voters, League of Women Voters, what we need from you, we need your help to perform 2 tasks to help, as we heard, to promote census jobs and to share the message that it's important, easy, and safe. And the way to start is by completing the sign-in sheet that we have in the back table back there. We have very distinct, doable tasks. For example, today I got a list of apartment complexes, and we have renters who are severely undercounted population. If you can make a phone call and drop off some forms, some literature at a rental office, that's the kind of thing we need help doing. So if you could just add your name to that brochure, to the sign-up list in the back, we will reach out to you with very distinct, doable tasks that you can help out, and that will help make it $3.5 million worth of difference in Highland. Thank you.
focus on who is actually undercounted, or is it that you focus on people who are likely to be undercounted? So you keep track of like who sent back the forms, or we have to send somebody after you because you didn't do that.
Okay, did everyone hear the question?
No.
Okay, so the question was how do, next I'll pass the mic. All right, so the question was how do we determine who to target to focus our efforts for encouraging a complete count? We had at the launch of in our planning meetings with the mayor, we identified likely populations including renters, people of lower income, and transitory populations. And we are reaching out to what we've tried to identify focuses. So it's rental offices, apartment complexes, that's one. Religious institutions, that's another. And the schools are a big locus, and the libraries. So we're trying to focus at nodes where a lot of people kind of pass through and come in contact with the community, and that's where we're hoping to reach them.
And then the follow-up question was, do you keep track of who responded and who didn't, so that you can focus on the people who didn't respond?
Since that information is completely confidential.
No.
Right.
None.
Right, yes.
And even the census people themselves can't.
No, we don't keep, we just keep statistics. So the way, did you have on your, the demographic information? So the exact same way that it's presented on his, so this, right. So really this is the, so this is the information, and you see it's ACS, which is the American Community Survey. Again, I'm not an expert in ACS, but this is done every year. It's a small sample of the population, and these are some of the things that they ask on the ACS. And this is how we get that yearly data. So remember, they take the information from 2010, the 2010 census, and then they see, you know, what numbers they have. And then, of course, they can determine if there was an undercount based on community resources, you know? So, I mean, just like you can see some of the empty chairs, right? So if you guys were the people present were the only people that filled out your census questionnaire, but yet and still you see those empty chairs, and in Highland Park, they're still using your resources. So what does that mean? That means Highland Park wasn't allocated, was only allocated the money for the people present, but the people that are not present that didn't fill out their census forms are still using that pot of money, so it thins it out. Yeah, so, but
So everyone gets the 5 notices, even though you responded to the first one?
No, no. So what happens is when you respond online, you don't get the 5 notices, you're done. You'll get a, you know, the goal is for everybody to fill it out the first go around. Like, hey, it's online, fill it out, you're done. And the only way you would get a follow-up is if maybe something wasn't accurate, or not accurate, wasn't completed on your form. So say maybe you gave, maybe it looked like a duplication, that's where they ask for your phone number, and they may call you. So, but yeah, you won't get the reminders if, you know, you fill it out. Yes.
So we get email notifications?
No, we do not send out.
How do we know? So we have to go someplace to fill it out?
No, you don't. You get a letter in the mail, which will get an invitation. Yes, you get a letter in the mail which will say, please fill out, you know, the census questionnaire is now available online. You know, I'm just kind of using verbiage, but, you know, please fill it out. And they will tell you what the options are and how to go about doing it. Okay, you're back.
You know, Highland Park is kind of known as a learning community. Learning. Now, and I said that because in other communities that are not considered learning in New Jersey, there may not be an organization such as the one he represents. How in the ham sandwich are we, no, I'm very serious because everything you said is eloquent. But I'm wondering, how do you reach that group of people that you were talking about earlier, folks living together, grandmamas, taking care of little kids? You know, there are only a few things that really move people. Money is one of them. That pile of money that you just showed. And the other one is politics in a way. When I say politics, I'm meaning P, small p. People have to know how it's going to hurt them if they're going to do anything. And so this whole thing about lunch programs and the bridge not broken and that kind of thing, how is that information going to get out to people if they really don't pay any attention? Because those are the few things that really make them do things.
Right.
I'm wondering.
So,
I know what you're doing.
right, so the goal of partnership is to actually partner. That is like why we're here. I mean, because there's only one of me,
Yeah.
and I can't be everywhere, right? So we rely on our partners. And the partners, so let's just say if it's a primarily Hispanic, undocumented community, right? So we know that a lot of Latinos go to church, right? And are very religious people. Okay, so we partner with the church. Father John could say, hey, we know that you may think, or the rumors are, that this could happen to you if you fill out the census form. But let me tell you, that is not the case, because I have worked, speaking as Father John, I have worked with census employees. They have told me about Title 13 and confidentiality and how they can't share your information with people. And that's how we get the message out. And we cater our message. So like, Joe wanted me to talk about young kids. But if I was going to the daycare center, I'm talking about free lunches. I'm talking about SNAP and WIC and all that stuff that matters to them, because you have to bring it back to what's in it for me, or what's in it for the community. And that's how we work with community stakeholders and partners to get that information across. Thank you so much.
So I have a question. For the people that are afraid to, because they're afraid of ICE, how do they know? I mean, with the climate of the government right now, how can they not get your data? You're not allowed to give it out personally. You're not allowed to give it out personally.
Okay, so
how do you prevent in the administration someone from getting their hands on census data?
Okay, so again, Title 13.
You have to, I'm sorry, you have to.
Oh, I'm
repeat.
sorry.
Yeah.
So she asked in communities where people are afraid of ICE, how does the Census Bureau protect their data from getting to other government entities? Okay, so again, we're just counting people. We, don't ask for addresses, and you saw what was on the questionnaire, right? So Title 13 protects folks from that, and that is what we stress. That is,
Doesn't go to the FBI.
doesn't go anywhere.
IRS, ICE,
Right.
does not go to any of these other government.
No, yeah. The only information that the president gets is how many people were in the United States, and possibly, what the demographics are. That's it.
Well, and also that citizenship question it's not on.
Right, and the citizenship question is not on there.
But the damage from that question has already been done, so it is up to, again, it has to come.
It's up to the
trusted-
community and
it
the
has to come
trusted
from
voices.
community leaders
Right,
to-
right. To say, you're good, you're safe, and. Well, again, that's the challenge, but where I'm up to it, so, so let me go right here first.
Aren't there also television ads under the census?
Sure, yeah, you'll start to see most of them in January. And there will be in various languages. So we have partnered, we have a big media ad buy campaign. So we'll be on all the national networks. You will definitely see, we'll probably get sick of census by the time it's time to fill it out. But yeah, we have all those videos are currently available. That video you just saw, it's currently available. And it's on our website and on YouTube as well. Okay, where we go.
Are resources allocated on a statewide basis or actually to the community? So if you're underrepresented here in Highland Park, do you lose it or does the whole state lose the resources?
Resources are allocated. Middlesex County has a certain amount of money that's available to the local municipalities. And today I got the grant application for us to fill out and submit to request funding for our efforts in Highland Park. And each municipality will have the opportunity to participate in that grant application process.
So then the state takes the money that they get from the feds and they break it down by county or community.
How does that happen?
No, I can't say that. But I mean, it comes down, so based on numbers.
Actually, I've been in touch with the mayor's office, and what they are sending, we've been working on getting a list of the programs that they apply. The borough is constantly applying for grants. Grants for senior this, grants for school this, and a lot of these grants ask for census data. Tell us what the population in your municipality is for this type of population that would qualify you for this grant. And they're preparing a list for me of those.
So, two things. First of all, I found a pair of eyeglasses. They're not mine. If anyone wants a pair of eyeglasses, give it up.
Does anyone need?
That know, right?
I don't think they're dollars. Second thing, I know that Highland Park has a reputation for being a learning community, as does Metuchen. But I was surprised in looking at the maps of undercounted areas. I was surprised to see how much undercounting was occurring in these towns. So, we don't want to just think of low income or whatever. It's everywhere. So we really do have a job.
Do you want to speak to your hardship enumerated population in Highland Park, what we discovered based on the data?
Well, go ahead.
No, I mean, like the populations that.
No, actually, we don't have, it looks like, I'm not
like
here.
the languages?
We only have about 2-3% that where language is not the where English is a secondary language. The big area is really New Brunswick. Look, 25% is not a shabby, insignificant amount. So it's worse in New Brunswick. It's certainly in our interest to make sure that we get in it, because again, a lot of our grant applications will ask, what did the census show for you? And if we don't have, then it's 10 years of Highland Park not being able to qualify for grants. So we have our own selfish interest in this. And yes, to your point, it is worse in New Brunswick. There's a map that shows how different areas shaded, and right across the Red River, there's a whole different color. It's just a lot shaded different color.
What were some of the other languages that you had?
Russian, Spanish, Russian, and Chinese.
Also, I found it difficult to read those maps.
That's why you call the data dissemination program, and he can come out and show you how to maneuver it and everything.
Yeah, there are different, I was able to, there's actually a summary of Highland Park. If you want, I can email that to you. I sent it to the mayor's office, but I can send you a copy.
It's really interesting. You can zero it down. Like you said, find out where you live, and you see the information that was gathered. It's really interesting. Yes.
The way we're going to get the word out is by working with partners. When the local complete count committees be working with, say, the state and others in order to get the word out, or they just working locally as a group?
Okay, so the question was about really partnership, and then will the local CCC in Highland Park work with the state and the county? So, would you like to speak?
Here we are.
I know, right? But you participated in the Middlesex County Complete Count Committee, and then, so it's almost like a tiered effect. So, at the state level, there's a state CCC, and all the people from the county go to the state CCC meeting. And then the county folks have their own CCC meeting, and then all of the local municipalities attend that CCC meeting. And then for the people that may not be at the table at the local CCC, sometimes nonprofit organizations form their own CCC. So maybe it's homeless shelters. They form their own CC. So it's really a grassroots campaign. So,
this is part of the process.
Right, this is part of the process.
We have a local complete count committee meeting with groups like yours.
And you're more than welcome to sit at the table. So.
I contacted the Middlesex County Complete Count Committee to get on the committee, because I'm the representative from this organization. I was told they are waiting for a grant from the state, and they're not doing anything yet. Have you gotten more luck with Middlesex County?
Well, I participated in a kickoff meeting. They may be focusing their efforts on starting, seeding little complete count committees locally. And encourage, I don't know if they're set up to take volunteers who just wanted to help out.
No, they told me they would add me to the list and let me know as soon as the grant came through. So
And then
how long ago was your kickoff meeting?
About 2 months.
Okay, so this was more recently.
Yeah.
I reached
And
out
then
to
maybe
them,
the
so it may have
complete-
died down while they're waiting for their grant.
Right, and maybe
Do you
the
know anything
complete
about
count
the
committees
grants?
have they also have subcommittees.
Yeah.
So they're probably just trying to figure out, what is gonna happen next and how to strategize to mobilize everyone. Okay, and there's a question. Yeah.
Do most or many communities like Highland Park have a committee such as yours?
Yes.
They do.
There was an article in the New York Times about 3 days ago that which states are budgeting for complete count. You saw it.
I
So
didn't see it.
they're mostly Democratic states.
Yeah.
Mostly Democrat-controlled states. The Republican, that's their loss.
They don't want their money.
They're like, we don't want big government. So I don't know what the rationale is, but it's short-sighted.
And some states have allocated funding for census separately, like on their own. It's not coming from the federal government. These are separate line items that the state has, budgeted for census. Right, the state of New Jersey allocated $9 million for the census.
You have fewer meetings like this happening in Texas, I'll tell you.
Yes.
That's kind of surprising. I read that also. That's kind of surprising. Why wouldn't
It's
why
short-sighted.
people-
They will pay for it for 10 years.
They don't want to pay to do the census.
No.
In the back? In the back?
Okay. I'm on a committee of one for my church. I belong to one of the ministries, and every time we have meetings with the league, I go back and then I regurgitate tongues. So I'm going to tell my ministry all about you. If I need materials, I can contact your office?
You can contact, honestly, so I am the partnership specialist that is working with Highland. Are you in Highland Park? Where are you located?
I'm in North Brunswick.
I'm still there, so yes.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, so I will give you my contact information, and I can come speak to your congregation and give you the whole,
give us materials,
give you materials and everything, yes. Okay, let me go right here.
Yeah, would you be able to come to Perth Airport? I'm on that complete count committee.
Okay, so Perth Amboy is out of my jurisdiction, so I'm actually Middle Jersey, so I have Middlesex and beyond, but unless it's an LGBT event, I go across the whole state, so, but I can actually refer you to someone in Perth Amboy as well, just make sure, yes. Anybody else?
I'm just thinking that Alyssa may know something about the work that local league census coordinators are doing and whether most of them are now part of complete count committees in their county. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so, we have, so like I said, we have 17 leagues participating in our coalition. And on that, in the coalition, there's 24 members. We have gotten most of them on complete count committees in their area, but we found that there's varying participation rates of these complete count committees. Some are very active, and some are sort of there for, I don't know, I guess, looks or just there. That's what I found. But some of them are very active and very helpful. So if you want to participate and get active in a CCC, I think it's a really great idea.
I agree.
And the CCCs are online, so you can actually look up CCCs on the census website.
There's a finder, actually.
Yep, you can look them up.
You put your zip code in, or you
And
zoom in on the map.
and they tell you where all the
Show you the
CCCs are. Yes.
You mentioned in your remarks that South Plainfield was the nearest census office.
ACU.
But we cover Somerset and Middlesex County. What other?
Right. So.
Somerset has a complete count committee.
Are you just asking the location of the ACOs?
Yeah, or doesn't the office matter?
No, the office, okay, so if you are in Middlesex County, most likely you will, if you want to work for the census, that would be the ACO that you would,
South Plainfield?
yes, South Plainfield.
And for Somerset
Somerset would probably be South Plainfield as well.
also?
Yes. Because then going down to Mercer County is Trenton.
And that's where you get your training.
Oh, right. Right. So if you apply to for a 2020 census.gov job, so first of all, you fill out the online application. Then you just have to be 18 years old. You need to have a working email address and a social security number. And if you have if you speak another language, that's a bonus. Also, if you are a veteran, that's a bonus as well. Once you complete the application online, it will say, you have completed the application. Then you check your email for updates. And then if you pass all of the background checks, then you will get a phone call and your interview will be on the phone. And then they'll, say, hey, come in for training. But for the enumerators, it will probably be like a one-day training in like a classroom setting, and then you'll probably do some online training. So in 2020, everything is pretty automated, which is totally different from 2010. And then you'll have like another classroom training, and then you'll be out there. Yes.
I can tell you it will take a while because I was with a friend. I think it was in February. And I completed an application because she was. And we didn't hear anything for a while. And now I'm getting some notices now.
Right, yes,
But
because
then all
again,
they're saying is that we will be in touch.
right, again, our major, we're recruiting right now. We want people in the pool because, it's not really an easy job. And sometimes, folks, may be there, for a couple of weeks and then, maybe people will just drop off because it wasn't for them. So, but, the main job that we're hiring for are, for enumerators. And so, that starts in January. So if you've already put in your application, again, we just ask that you be patient because, that call will be coming. But if the call does not come, there is no email notification saying, I'm sorry, you didn't get selected. That's, so that. Yes.
Do you share your contact information?
Oh, my personal contact information? Yes, I do. Yes, so I can give it to you. I can give you my business card. Yeah.
Okay, that'd be great. Can you give me the information about the lady that?
Yeah, so I'll give you my contact information and then I can forward, when you email me, I can give you whoever is the partnership specialist in Perth Amboy. Because we're all over the state. Yes.
There is an organization of county business officials in most of the counties, some in most of the counties, and they're always looking for speakers. Do you think that would be a good place to come?
Sure, oh, absolutely, absolutely.
They're the ones who want the money.
Right, again, with businesses, I come at it from a few angles. So one, they use our data to plan where their businesses are gonna go. So, if you have a population, one town, I did a presentation in South Jersey, 55% of their population was over 65. So that wouldn't be a good place to build a daycare, right? So, and that's information that you can get just by using census data, like this information right here. There's several categories so if you just happen to take a second and go on Roam, there are so many, you can learn so much about your community just by looking at the census tracts. But yeah, and then not only am I talking to the business owners about, it's important for them to, have census data, because again, if it's a nonprofit, you need great information. What's the population? How many people live there? How are you estimating how much money you're gonna need and where are you getting those numbers from? Most people are pulling it from census data. Also the staff, so if I'm speaking to rural farmers, I'm saying, hey, okay, it's important, but then what about the people that work for you? Right? So I'm talking about your staff, right? So, and that's why it's important. So, it's important for the businesses to know why census is important, but then I'm also talking to you about your staff. So, it affects you no matter who you are. Personally, my town has so many potholes. Oh my gosh, my suspension is just off the chain. But that's infrastructure, and those are census dollars. So if so I'm just saying, there might be a lot more traffic that's going through your town, You know, that's pothole money. So, I mean, it affects each and every one of us in so many ways, And you don't have to be in a hard to enumerate community. You know, everyone goes to the hospital. Everyone, senior citizens, Medicaid, I mean, it affects everybody. I mean, even the Starbucks that gets, put in a downtown area, they use census data too. Because, I mean, like, if I'm looking at the median income, I think, is there one on there? No, there's not. But if I'm looking at the income, is there a median income? Oh, yeah, look. So, right, so Census Tract 13, $78,000. That's the median income of all the people that live in that tract. Starbucks looks good to me at $5 a cup, right? So I'm just saying, it makes a difference. So it affects everyone, and that's why it's so important to take this charge seriously. Talk to whoever you have to talk to. If you can't talk to them, I'll talk to them. But, or I'll find somebody that can talk to them in their language. But it's just so important.
I was just going to ask you, do you ever get calls from, like, school boards and superintendents?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes. So the wonderful thing about partnership, we have partnership on the congressional level.
Okay.
We also, in each municipality, so when we form these CCCs at Highland Park, so UDI is charged with bringing those people to the table.
Okay.
Right, and so at that meeting, we had somebody who was representing, the schools. So, and then that's how we get the information to trickle through. So it's literally like word of mouth. And you know how, rumors spread, right? So we're just trying to make sure that the census is spreading, the message about the census is spreading the exact same way. The exact same way.
This data up here is really fascinating. I'm looking at Census Tract 11 and Census Tract 13. They're not that different in terms of the median household income, okay? But look at the children under 18 living in poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Twice as many in Census Tract 13.
And I bet you if he expanded that, you would probably see some other indicators as to why that is.
Yeah.
And that would be folks in the hard to enumerate.
Part of it is looking at the map.
Right.
Yeah, so, right.
But you don't actually collect income data in
So okay, so on the 2020 decennial, all we're asking are those 10 questions. The ACS is what we like to call our long form, which is what we used to do before they condensed it into 10 questions. So the long form, which is the ACS survey, again, it's only surveying a specific part of the population, a small percentage, but you get a lot of information from there. And I think it's 72 questions. I'm not really exactly sure because that's not my area of expertise. But again, you can go to census.gov and there's a tab that says surveys. And then you can actually click on every single survey that we do. And it explains what questions are asked, when they're asked, even the why. And then there's some papers. Let's see if I have my phone. So the information that I gave you about the children, that comes from one of our surveys called the Census Barriers, Attitudes, and Motivators Study Survey. Okay, so again, you can find CBAMs, because we have acronyms in the federal government for everything. So but all of this information that I've given you tonight is all on the census.gov website. And if you just, instead of reading the paper or something, just go on the website. They're on there. And again, I thank you so much. This was really a great turnout. And great event.
Just like to thank all of you for coming, and for those of you from Highland Park, you can get a recording of this on YouTube. And George, who is recording it, or title, will be getting that in the next several days posted on.
Thank you.
Right, so thanks everyone.